I'll call to order our special meeting of the Finance Committee Budget Workshop. Thank everyone for being here today. This is the start of our budget season. It's my understanding the county met at 2 o'clock today to finalize theirs. I don't know if they passed it or not. They did? Okay, so they're finished and we're beginning. Anyway, thank everybody for being here today. There was an agenda passed out. Let me just go over it real quick. We're going to have a presentation of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, an overview of the proposed budget, and then other topics that anyone wants to bring up. And also on the agenda are the list of the meetings. And I trust these dates are published somewhere. People can find them. The next one happens to be next week. We meet Tuesday and Thursday for folks' information. So with that, we will start with the first item, which is the presentation by the Budget Advisory Committee. Trevor, are you going to introduce this, or who's going to? Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Vice Chair Adams, Mayor Jones, members of council. We have Ron Braun today from the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. I just want to say that they did an outstanding job. They had an opportunity to tour a lot of the services, and Ron will mention those during his presentation, and gave us a lot of insight. Insight that staff, a lot of things that we see day in and day out, it's always good to get a fresh pair of eyes to take a look at it, and I definitely commend them on the job that they did. So, further delay, Ron.
All right. And if you give your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Ronald Braun. I live at 2679 Arbor Place Court in Winston-Salem.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the Citizens Budget Advisory Council and to briefly review our findings relative to the North Carolina Benchmarking Data Project. Our review this year focused primarily on comparative performance measures relating to workloads, efficiency, and effectiveness of specific services that the city provides. For purposes of this review, we used data from fiscal year 2012 and 2013 and worked closely with the Budget and Evaluation Department in an effort to identify issues relating to the quantity and quality of services provided in Winston-Salem that might be relevant to upcoming budget discussions. The three areas of city services upon which we focused were wastewater services, fleet maintenance services, asphalt maintenance and repair.
Could you go to that slide?
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay. The benchmarking data is currently provided by about 15 cities in North Carolina and is managed by the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill School of Government. In conjunction with our departmental reviews, we were given tours of the Archie Elledge wastewater facility, wastewater treatment plant, the fleet services at the city yard, and the asphalt maintenance and repair operation. These tours were accompanied by management presentations and discussions to better understand the equipment and resources with which they have to work. The cities with which we compared Winston-Salem were Charlotte, Durham, Greensboro, and High Point. It should be noted that Raleigh no longer participates in this project. The key findings for the wastewater treatment plants is that Winston-Salem is a combination city-county operation, and this results in a lower service area population density and fewer miles of mainline pipe per capita to maintain. The city has 2 treatment plants, and we have the second oldest infrastructure in the United States behind only Boston. And it maintains over 1,700 miles of mainline pipe. The resource and efficiency measures that show that Winston-Salem's cost per customer account and cost per 1,000 gallons of treated wastewater are lower than the average of the other cities. Winston-Salem reports a similar number of sanitary sewer overflows, which they call SSOs, per mile of pipeline to those of Charlotte, but more than both Durham and High Point. The city's wastewater operations system has reduced the number of SSOs per mile of mainline pipe from a high of 6.8 in fiscal year 2008-9 to 4.8 in fiscal year 2013-14. So that represents a 29% reduction. Preliminary indications are that the number has been further reduced in this current fiscal year. The national benchmark for this measure is 2.0 SSOs per mile of pipeline, so there's a long way to go. One of the thoughts we had was that we need to find ways to examine ways to increase pipe cleaning to mitigate the occurrence of these in the future. A major concern in the future has to do with extensive nutrient removal requirements for permitting. All of the other cities in the project are subject to more stringent wastewater treatment requirements pertaining to the removal of nitrogen and phosphorus from treated effluent. The North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources is currently studying this issue as it pertains to Winston-Salem and will probably modify the discharge requirements associated with nutrient removal for the city in the not-too-distant future. This could have a significant financial impact in the future for the city's wastewater services operation. Fleet services.
Can we,
Yeah, yes.
would you like to go through all of it, then ask questions, or do you want to stop after each category?
Whatever
Any,
you prefer.
what's that? Why don't we stop after each category?
Okay.
I got a few here. Ms.
Okay, are there
Burke,
any questions?
First question, yeah.
Oh, I do appreciate what you're doing, but I did have a concern. You talked about the pipes. We have been having a lot of problems with pipes because they're not the size that they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And in your discussion, was there anything about recommendation to a city, what and how they would go about it, and also the economics for that, something like that?
As far as I can recall, as far as discussion about the size of the pipes, most of the discussion centered around the age of the pipes and replacement due to the age, not necessarily specific on this group. Now, they were told about flows and what could go through the certain size pipes, but their focus was specifically on the age.
Well, we have been discussing the age of those pipes for quite some time, and we're having these rains and the overflow. It appears that it's creating problems in some areas.
Yes.
And what are we proposing to do about that, since we're talking about a budget? Anybody?
Mr. Turner can answer
Mr.
that.
Turner, I'll call on you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the Utility Commission has been discussing the concern about sanitary sewer overflows for a couple of years now. One of the things they have in their proposed budget is a doubling of the number of miles of sewer line that are cleaned every year, because root infiltration, grease blockages, and other blockages are a primary, if not the primary, cause for sanitary sewer overflows. We also have an ongoing program in the capital component of the Utility Commission budget to deal with undersized pipes. As council members who've experienced the road closures associated with those will know, they are complicated and have a significant impact on the neighborhood. So we try to be very cautious about when we do those. And when we do them, we typically are doing both water line and sewer line upsizing and rehabilitation at the same time.
Mr. Chairman, I feel that through the city manager, we need to take a serious look, because we're having problems in neighborhoods, and some neighborhoods are having more problems than other neighborhoods. So I would like to know, looking at these neighborhoods where we have our major problems.
We can bring a report back to Public Works and Council. As Mr. Turner said, the Utility Commission has recommended doubling the amount of preventative maintenance. So those sewer backups are not only are they damaging to the environment, as you all know, when you get called by citizens, they're very disruptive to individual citizens.
Mr. Chairman, I had one other question. I'd
Go
like
right
to
ahead.
ask Mr. Brown about the study that Diener is making again. Would you go with that one? Mr. Brown.
Yes, I'm
You
sorry.
said something about a study that
Yeah.
Diener is making.
Let me see. Mr.
Well-
Turner, would you like to comment more on the nitrate study? You
Certain
may be appropriate.
water basins in North Carolina have had their water quality in the lakes that feed out of their rivers and into their lakes deteriorated to such an extent that they are having to do post-treatment of their water and sewer system release waters. And so our system currently does not have to do that. However, our next permit could very likely require that. So what the commission has been doing is studying the implications of those new rules if they are imposed on under the Yadkin River Basin, which is where we get our water.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do have a question. If everyone open your blue book to page 82, this is the second comment about overflows. If there's any way you could put that up on Elmo for the rest of the audience to see. This is a question I had later on my notes, but since we just covered it, I was going to comment. Page 82, the bottom right graph. If you'll see that chart, the wastewater overflows. Let me wait till the old-fashioned overhead projector here. Let's see if we can get it working. I didn't mean to give such a difficult problem. Okay. Anyway, if you look at the waste overflows, there we go. Move it up. Move your thing up just a little bit. Look at the bottom right. You know, Charlotte, Winston, and High Point are kind of in the same ballpark, but Greensboro is an order of magnitude below us. They're a tenth of what we are.
I think there was
Yeah,
a problem.
we're 10 times what they are, and I guess we're measuring is the number of overflows per 100 miles of pipe. Are they doing, and they're dramatically different. They're 15 times, Charlotte's 15 times higher than they are. And this is a general question I would have for the benchmark as a whole. Do we think that, and there's other places in this book where the differences are just absolutely dramatic, but I can't understand why Greensboro would have a tenth the number of overflows that we would have, or 1/15 of what Charlotte would. Number one, do we feel confident in that? Have we talked to Greensboro enough to know that, do they clean their pipes out more often, or just what's the...
As I remember during the discussions, I think there was a problem with Greensboro's data. I think they might have missed a year. There was something that really threw theirs out of whack with everyone else.
Yeah.
And I don't know the details. I can't remember the details of it, but there was something. They didn't report some period of time, and so it really skewed the numbers.
Then maybe we need to put an asterisk or something, because in statistics, they used to be called outliers. If all the numbers are kind of here and you got one way up here or way down here, that's usually an indication of a data issue.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I do know and you said 85 is what's a national standard for overflows?
Two.
2 is the national standard, not what the average is, but that's the goal.
That's the goal, okay. So we're twice the goal, okay. All righty. And if y'all could just keep Mr. Bessie's chairman of Public Works, keep him and the committee informed on the nitrates, because if I remember, that had a huge price tag.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be interesting the next time you report it, if other cities have had to do it, what it actually cost. Because these benchmarking, Durham is off. I don't know if Durham was one of the ones or not. They're very close to our size. Greensboro's a little bit bigger, but not much. And High Point's a little smaller, so be curious to see what they've had to do there.
The estimate for doing it here is between $150 and $250 million.
$1 million. Okay. Mr. Chairman, please continue. We'll now go to the next one, the next category, which was your fleet services.
Okay, fleet services. The workload measures suggest that Winston-Salem's fleet services has fewer technicians per vehicle equivalent unit, and the vehicle equivalent unit means they're comparing sedans to sedans, not garbage trucks. So you're comparing like vehicles. And they completed more work orders per technician, which is a good thing, than other cities. This strong preventive maintenance system has helped to reduce operating costs by employing proactive vehicle maintenance policies. The cost per VEU is about 34% below the average of the other cities. Effectiveness measures suggest a decline, however, due likely to the increasing average age of our fleet of vehicles. Winston-Salem's fleet of vehicles is about 20% older than the comparison cities. And as a result, the percentage of work orders completed within 24 hours has decreased or dropped from 91% in fiscal year 2009 to 70% in fiscal year 2013. So it's taking longer to get these vehicles back on the road. The council found that the percentage of rolling stock available each day has dropped by about 4% in 2013. Outsourced contractual work, stuff that we farm out to other parties, has also increased steadily over time, and it's up about 4% from 2009 to 2013. The city should continue to monitor the effectiveness measures and consider carefully adding additional resources if service delivery levels continue to deteriorate. That was one of the things that some of the people in that department talked about, is they thought they could use a couple more technicians to take care of more of this in-house and turn it over quicker.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, just not a question, but just going back to the city manager, this was one of the areas that we did a managed competition years ago when Mr. Garrity was a little further down the staff there. And I think it's just continue to pay good dividends, Lee.
Yes.
So we gave the troops over there some flexibility to set up their organization in a way that works better, and it's obviously showing fruition.
How many vehicles are in the fleet? What's the total number?
It's a little over 1,700.
So that would be the police cars and everything else?
I think that's everything.
Tractors, everything.
Everything else. Because I do think one good measure there is the average age.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you just mentioned, as that creeps up, you would expect your maintenance to creep up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I think our average age is about 8.6
Yeah.
years or something.
And that's in here in the
Yeah,
book
yeah.
somewhere. Ms. Burke?
Yes, I guess I can know when we even started this fleet service, when we pulled it aside. The question to the city manager, the use of our vehicles and how well are we taking care of them? And can we see a difference in, even though they're older vehicles, how much more use we will have on some of them, and what will be the effect in purchasing new ones? If you don't have the question today, you can...
We'll provide that information.
Okay. Ms. Adams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for doing everything that you do. I guess this is directed at Mr. Garrity as well. I'd like to see the information that tells us what our maintenance issues or what it is that we're working on, or our issues with our vehicles, and do we have a plan to address the number one, number two, to drive it down, whether that means, as the chair said, we need to look at additional technicians or what. Okay.
Okay. The last area is fleet services. Excuse me.
Asphalt maintenance and repair
Asphalt
services.
maintenance. Next page, please.
Resource measures since fiscal year 2009 show that Winston-Salem's cost per capita and cost per lane mile maintained were well below the large city's average. The cost for Winston-Salem go up and down each year due to the fact that there's a bond issue, I think, every other year, which throws some money into road repairs and things. Effectiveness measures involving the pavement condition report, the PCR, shows that we maintain about 50% of our streets at a rating of 85 or better. That's kind of the standard that we're supposed to target. While the goal is 85%, we compare more favorably than the other cities. So we have better roads than the other cities. The recent bond referendum, the $15 million bond referendum, is anticipated to increase from 50% to about 60% of the streets that would be at an 85 or better. As far as potholes goes, the city is more effective at repairing potholes within 24 hours of them being reported than our comparative cities. The city consistently repairs potholes in a timely manner about 82 to 85% of the time, and their standard, their benchmark is 80%. The conclusions that we drew were that the city compares favorably to the other large cities in the three service areas reviewed. The city department heads found value in being part of the benchmarking project and using the available data to identify potential best practices and service improvement opportunities. We encourage the development of additional measures beyond those reported by the project to further enhance city services. The city should consider exploring opportunities for training collaboration with the local community colleges and nonprofits such as Goodwill Industries for training and recruitment for employment areas that seem to have a high turnover, such as equipment operator positions and fleet maintenance technician positions. That was something we heard throughout, was that there's a high turnover level, especially with truck drivers, CDL license type people. That seems to be a continuing problem throughout the whole thing. And then the city should explore the development of a plan to right-size the fleet and include the advancement of the replacement schedule due to the current age of our city fleet vehicles. Alternative revenue options should also be explored, with current resources being limited as they are. Any other questions?
Did your study look at this? We looked at the efficiency of repairing the fleet, but did we do any benchmarking on the size of the fleets?
I think there's a chart somewhere on that, isn't there, that compares how many vehicles we have in the study that you probably have it there. I think we're pretty comparable to the cities our size.
Okay.
Charlotte obviously would be much
Big.
different, but
Okay. Ms. Burke?
Again, thank you, Mr. Brown. I know you've given a lot of hours, and please get those hours so we can give them to the We Care group so we can recognize you for your time.
Thank you.
Citizens' participation
Okay.
is so important.
okay, thank you.
And I've said on so many occasions, we have universities and colleges that we can go to assist us, and that's a good recommendation, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, again, I would like to see a matrix that tells us the ages of our vehicles, our fleet, from oldest to newest or whatever, whether we have 30 new ones, 319, whatever, 99, whatever. Okay?
Right.
Thanks.
Mr. McIntosh?
Your group did not make any recommendation on, say, increasing the rolling stock. I mean, you didn't do an analysis. I would imagine there'd be a staff thing to look at the capital cost of making a rolling stock newer, which will decrease the money we spend on employees to fix them. But that hasn't been done yet, or has it?
The budget office has done some of that. That's reflected in the budget. There's some additions both in replacement and additions in positions. So, but we'll get you more details on what they've done.
Okay. A sincere thank you. I do take the work that your committee does very seriously. As I said at the very beginning, I do think benchmarking, particularly against comparable cities, and Durham and Greensboro are probably the two most comparable as far as our size, says a lot. I think we have to be sure that we're doing apples to apples, but I think it's enlightening. People oftentimes ask me the difference between the public and the private sector. In the private sector, I have one very simple benchmark. You know, did you make a profit? Earnings per share, whatever you want to call it. But in the public sector, it's a little bit tougher. And so we do use these benchmarking against other cities to see how we're doing. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, we're going to have an overview of the proposed 2015 budget.
Yeah, I'll kick it off.
Okay.
And then
Mr. Garrity's going to kick it
All
off
right.
for us.
Thank you, Chairman Clark, Mayor Joines, Vice Chairman Adams, and the members of the committee and City Council. This year, I think we are very fortunate to see the fruits of a lot of labor by many people, particularly around this table. Mr. Rao and I were talking about this year's budget, and we can't quite remember one quite like this. The economy is really starting to grow. The momentum we're feeling throughout the entire city. You'll see that our property tax base is growing at 1.5%. That doesn't seem like a lot, but based on previous years, it's a lot. Sales tax is growing at 4% or more. But we were able to bring in this budget, recommend a budget to council, and it's just a start. It becomes your budget to change as you see fit. But we're able to bring this budget in with no increase in taxes except for the voter-approved tax increase related to the bond referendum. But we're able to bring it in balanced, absorb another hit from the state of North Carolina, another gift of $2.3 million to the general fund, and still provide for all the basic services and have a decent competitive compensation package without a tax increase. And that's just not been the typical norm in previous years. So we're working on getting some information that the mayor requested that we'll get to you next week about all the economic development projects that we've had over the last year or two and how much growth there's been from those, because there's quite a bit of that, quite a bit. And I think that'll be interesting to see. We'll bring it next week to committee. But it has made the budget a little bit easier. We haven't had to ask for everybody to share the pain, which has been pretty much the norm in previous years. But again, it's still a very conservative budget. It's not overly aggressive, but it doesn't require any drastic changes, which I think is a good thing. But as I said earlier, this is just a start. It's our recommendation, but we're here to serve you to see what changes you would like to make over the next several weeks. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Minor to kind of give us an overview.
Mr. Minor, go right ahead.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank this committee and council in general for actually being patient and working with us as a staff. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Garrity and the city manager's office. First year here, they've been very kind and patient with me as well. And I guess I should thank everyone now. They may not want to stand or say anything later. The budget staff as well, who could not have done this without them. I don't know if they want to stand up, but I'll just do it now. I've asked them to stand up right now. Better yet. I just want to say thanks to these guys.
Thank y'all.
And also the department heads, because in all honesty, this is not something that you do in isolation. One person doesn't do it. One department doesn't do it. It takes the community as a whole. And that falls back to the CBAC and also the allocation committee. So with that, I'll get started. This is the proposed budget. What you see here, this first budget for fiscal year 2016, is a net expenditure total. And as you can see, we're looking at a comparison between fiscal year 15 and fiscal year 16. And you see a significant drop there in the net expenditures. That's further defined on the next slide, but the chunk of that is due to capital items that have actually come off rolls. The total proposed budget, you see here, $414.7 million. We have an operational increase of just 1.9%. See our debt service decreased by 33.2%. And that huge chunk of capital expenditure items, those are just a few of the items and reasonings why the capital has dropped so much. Again, Union Station, South Fork, and other items. We have the general fund budget right now of $182.4, which is an increase of 1.7 from last fiscal year. We wanted to mention again the 2.5% increase in property tax, and that is only for debt payments for voter-approved bonds. We've also included in this budget proposed merit adjustment, roughly between 1.5 and 3%. We budget having near 2% on average there, and a 1% market pay adjustment for all permanent, full-time, and part-time employees. Here's our overview, continued. This year we have an addition of 11 positions, but we're actually deleting 4, and we're having a net increase of 7 positions. A couple of these positions actually address what the CBAC was speaking of, and you guys were asking about as far as fleet. What are we doing? The manager actually mentioned this. We have 1 senior fleet technician and 1 associate fleet technician to address some of the needs, and that actually came from input from the CBAC. We have 3 laborers in solid waste, 3 fire captain positions, 2 inspector positions in planning and development services, and 1 assistant city attorney. And those are our additions. Our deletions are 2 business license inspectors from finance. Those are coming off due to the elimination of the business privilege license, and 1 project planner in planning, and also 1 senior IS analyst position in information services. Below, you see just a 9% increase in water fees, and that's for large, high-volume users. The $1.85 increase in monthly base charge, that is actually for the average residential user. we have a proposed fee increase of $70, and that's sanitation, dead animal collection fees. They're mainly charged to, I think, restaurants, I think a few animal control, things of that nature.
That's mostly fish.
Exactly,
Yeah.
fish.
Fish and
That's really
veterinarians.
mainly what it is, fish markets, things of that nature. New plan review fee.
We're not going to go into that further.
No.
So just,
And new plan review.
no sushi tonight. Go ahead.
The new plan review fund for electronic plan review, $200,000, and landfill tipping fees, which should generate roughly $12,000. This is a slide that we're probably all very, very familiar with. This is our property tax base, and again, the 16.3 million is an increase from last year. Again, it's due to real and personal property increase. Everything else is pretty consistent. Here we have our tax rate allocation. And again, we're highlighting the 2.5 cents for the voter-approved bonds. That is our tax increase that we're showing this year. So we're looking at a 56.50 proposed tax rate this year. And again, 2.5 cents for the bond referendum. And we also have consistent still the 9 cent for the bid district. This particular slide just shows our property tax rate over time. And I just want to note fiscal year 15 and 16 does not include the 9 cent bid district. So this is outside the 9 cents. You can see it's been fairly consistent over the years. Here we have our impact on the tax bills with our 2.5 cent tax rate. I'll just highlight just a couple of these. $100,000 house, you're looking at a $25 tax rate increase. $250,000 home, you're looking at a $62.50 increase on your tax bill. Here's a slide where we're actually showing, and these are based on proposed numbers, customer costs for municipal services for this coming year. And again, it's based on $191,000 home value, median value for Raleigh. And this particular slide shows us this year not having the lowest cost, but we did some research and found out that the reason we actually moved up a little bit this year is due to that based on 3,740 gallons of 5cc flows a month. Now, normally it's based on, I think, 4,000. So when you start moving that number a little bit, you'll see our costs change there. Here we have our proposed fiscal year 2016 general fund budget. Again, $182.4 million. Majority of that, as far as revenues, is coming from property tax. Next is the sales tax, as the manager mentioned. Our greatest expenditures, as in most organizations, is personnel, supplies and services. A little bit more detail on the following slides. Here we have our total revenues. This is a budget-to-budget change. And we're looking at an increase of approximately $4.5 million. And here we have listed the reasonings for some of these revenue increases. Again, I'll touch on some of these at the high level. The increase in property tax revenues this year, and that was based on the last estimate that we got from the county, which was, I think, May the 1st that we received. And we saw a growth in projected tax base of roughly $1.7 million. And we're saying that that is right now due to economic conditions, some of the economic development within the city right now is what we're seeing. Growth in real property, 1.5%, and also sales tax growth. And also this year we saw an increase in utilities franchise fee. The last one we have down there is the reduction from the business privilege tax license. And there are other things that probably that would have been used for, maybe police and fire, vehicles or equipment. That's off the rolls. I don't think that's coming back.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of this sitting here, can you tell me, if you talk about tourism, Where would you see the increase here?
The increase in tourism?
Yes.
As far as,
The economy. that
okay,
Making, the economic difference.
okay,
If you can give it to me.
okay.
You can give it to me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. As far
I
as,
think there's a hotel tax,
Yeah.
we ought to get
Yeah.
that number.
Yeah.
yeah, our occupancy tax, we can get to you.
And what I would like, Mr. Manning, is that you can show actually from last year to this year.
Okay.
And just how that tourism is paying off with what
Gotcha.
we have done in the city with the different shops and people coming in with that impact they're making for us and what impact are the tourists making for them. Thank you.
You can get that to you.
Okay,
All right.
continue. Will there be plenty of time to answer any questions, so that everybody will just keep going, get all the questions answered. Yes, sir, you're on the expenditures.
Expenditures. Our greatest expenditure that we're seeing an increase in employee compensation this year, and this is based on our merit, tiered merit. And again, we include an average of 2%. This is approximately $2.1 million we're looking at. We also have included the market rate adjustment, which comes to $1.2 million. And also this year, we were able to have in this proposed budget an increase in replacement of equipment this year, approximately $1 million. And here again, we have the addition of the 6 positions in the general fund I mentioned earlier, the assistant city attorney, the 2 planning and inspector positions, and the 3 fire captain positions. The fire captain positions are going to be doing more training. We continue on with some of the general fund highlights. You'll see a decrease in the base salaries due to retirements and attrition of roughly the same number that we saw over for our merit, the 2.1 million. So they're both a wash. We have just as many as retiring. We have in there adjusted for the merit. We also had several net decreases. We're looking at fuel prices dropped significantly. Also, Bryce H. Stewart rent is decreased. Police body camera storage is an increase. And information system charges, computer licenses, Microsoft licenses went down. And here again, we're showing the deletion of the positions from the general fund, which is the 2 business and license inspectors that are in finance and elimination of 1 project planner position from the city. Questions there?
Keep going, we'll try to get all the questions.
Okay, gotcha. Next one, we have our market salary comparisons. This is one that you all have probably seen before. And again, we're showing a comparison between the variance percentage is between the market and 2015. And these are just a few examples. With the one, I guess, the greatest differential is the light equipment operator. And also the highest turnover rate we have with office assistants. This particular chart, we have our large city and counties pay increases that are being proposed this year. As you can see, Winston-Salem with the 2% merit and the 1% market adjustment. Raleigh's doing something a little different, 2.9% average merit, depending on the employee salary compared to the pay range. You see the city of Charlotte that suffered a large hit due to the business privilege license adjustment that they had to, the hit that they took this year. So you see their merit at 1.5 and the 2.5 to 5% step for public safety officers. One that is fairly interesting is Forsyth County this year, 2.58 average merit with an accelerator, up to 50% of merit increase if the employee is below market. What I think that means is actually if they're below market, they get their merit increase. If they are below market, it's half the merit increase until it gets them up. So it's just an additional bump there. And a 2.5% 401k match.
Let me do this because this is a fairly lengthy presentation.
Yes,
We're
sir.
roughly halfway through it. Let me just stop there and let's
Yep.
just see if there's any questions starting from the beginning. If anyone has any questions, I had a few while y'all were looking. Let me just run through it real quick. I had a list of questions. I think you've answered some of them here. One question I had was on the merit pay, and that is for everyone.
Yes.
No, I mean, not merit
Full
pay.
in.
The market adjustment is for everyone. Okay. bear with me a minute. Going through it. This question may be obsolete now, but, and I'm on page 5, the way we collect the vehicle sale, property tax is different. You used to bill the people, now you pay it when you get your sticker. And by the way, we're going to a 1-sticker system from a 2-sticker system. I just learned that the other day, going forward. Has that, I'm assuming that's resulted in a lot better collection? Does anybody, Ben or anybody have a feel for that?
That is correct. Whereas before, I think that our collection rate on the registered motor vehicle property taxes was probably slightly below 90%. It's now more up towards, I think, 97,
Yep,
98%.
Okay.
I think linking it to the registration has improved collection.
Okay, thank you. Next question, let me just bear with me, thumb through here real quick. Page 7 on property tax rates, the next valuation is in fiscal year 18, is that correct? Because we did it in 14.
That is correct.
So we're only
2 years back.
2 years in.
Yes.
And it will be an interesting time because I certainly think prices are adjusting upward. And Mr. McIntosh is our expert there, but being interesting in 2 years to see what happens there. Would like to point out, and you just mentioned it, the Bryce Stewart rent is going down. We did actually purchase that building 7 years ago or so, and at the time we had to assume the mortgage or loan that was on it, but we could prepay it, which we did within the last year or so. And I'm looking at Ms. Saunders, you can nod your head one way or the other. And because of that, we were able to refinance at a much lower interest rate and are saving quite a bit of money. So it's turned out to be a real home run for the city as far as the purchasing of that. And I'll stop right there. I've got some other questions, which I'll get later. Does anybody else have any questions on account of the first half? Ms. Adams?
Yes. Looking at the market salary comparisons, I would like to know what would the budget scenario look like if we adjusted those positions that are still double digits variance percentage, if we adjusted them to bring them closer to single digits. And I would also like to see, based on what the county has done, what would our numbers look like if we did the same process that they're doing to adjust.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, you had a question?
Just a quick point that you alluded to on page 7 on the property tax rate chart there. As you pointed out, between 13 and 14, there was a revaluation year, and that was the year that was a devaluation of our property tax.
Correct.
So that going from 49 to 53 was less revenue neutral. I mean, we actually could have gone a little higher and still stayed revenue neutral, but we worked hard and the manager worked hard, and so that's the reason that's a 4% increase right there, because of the devaluation of tax base. Hopefully we're making some of that up.
And I'll point out, too, that the next penny, the 54, the next year was brought to us by the state because of the proprietary software.
Thank you.
Let me, before I forget it, I'll look at our attorney. Anything happen in Raleigh that we need to be cognizant in general on this budget? Is the franchise tax coming back? Is anything else going away? Can you just give us any up-to-date?
I don't think the privilege license is coming back, and of course, they're looking at the sales tax redistribution or reallocation plan. And there's some proposals that are being made to modify the plan as Senator Brown proposed. Senator Bluchett has some modifications, so perhaps within the next couple of weeks, we might have some more information.
Okay.
But I would not count on the privilege license tax coming back.
Okay, and then how about sweepstakes is gone?
Gone.
I think so.
Okay. But our city attorney does do our legislative work, and she does keep us posted on anything that's happening. And right now, we'll assume that the status quo in Raleigh until you tell us different.
I sent you an email about 314.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. McIntyre.
My question is about the Business Improvement District, the 9-cent tax rate there. Does their fiscal year coincide with our fiscal year, so we've coordinated with them?
Yeah.
They feel like that is the budget that they need? Because I know our, the underlying tax value of downtown is up, so they obviously have a good way to spend the money.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Burke?
I was just going to make an observation about the decrease in the rent for the Bill Stewart. And I think when we do something like that, we need to sort of emphasize to let folks know we do look at their dollars wisely. That was my concern, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
one more question or request for information. I was at the League of Municipalities board meeting last week, and it was very interesting, as we say, that they had basically all of the cities that were there, and mayors and council members, they had concluded their budget process. I would like to know, basically, if you could just give me a matrix of the somewhat cities compared to Winston, but even less than Winston, where the tax rates went for most of these cities, because what I'm hearing is a substantial amount of cities raised their taxes substantially, and I don't know why that is. They said that they had projects and things that they wanted to do. A lot had to do with roads, transportation, sidewalks, things like that, and increasing public safety in their cities. But even one city, Jacksonville, raised their taxes by 12 cents. So I would be interested to know where everyone went this year as to where we're going with ours. And so we can, again, be quite frank with our citizens that, you know, our services, we could do, as the city manager said, a lot more than what we're doing now. But the main thing we having issues with, again, is our streets, our vehicles and things like that, and the pay adjustments for our employees. And I did hear a lot of them say that they made adjustments to their employees because their employees carried the burden of the past 4 years. So I'd like to know where we are head to head with the rest of them.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, folks, we stopped on page 16 of the handout. We'll continue there.
Ready. What we have here is proposed uses of a general fund balance. This year we're looking at an appropriation of roughly $2.879 million. $2 million of that is operations. $386,560 is the city fiber optic network that's underway. $392,650 is the Benton Convention Center operations, and that is that's for year 1 and 2 additional subsidy while renovations are underway. Part of the building is going to be closing. We need some subsidy, and then the next year the other portion of the building will close. And $100,000 for neighborhood revitalization strategy building rehab loan program. Here we have again just our estimated fiscal year 15 year end as compared to fiscal year 14. Some of the highlights here again, the $2.9 million in appropriated fund balance that we have, and also the $4.7 million in undesignated fund balance that is out there this year. These next slides are our grants to community agencies. And again, we will have further discussion about these particular grants during our June 2nd meeting, where we'll have the allocation committee chair that will present at that point in time and field questions. So I'll just very quickly look at the general fund total, which is basically the proposed is actually the same as budgeted last year. I won't highlight any of the agencies in particular.
Let me just mention to everybody, to remind everybody, we put together, and I guess the mayor, you coordinated this, a group of citizens from throughout the community that did a citizens community agency committee, I guess, whatever they were called, that looked at all this. I understand they worked very diligently at it, and you're telling me their chairman will be here to present it?
Chairman will be here, and just to speak briefly about the process this year, it was a pretty enlightening process, I think, for the citizens involved and the staff. Mm-hmm. Again, it's always good to have a fresh set of eyes to take a look at it. Mm-hmm. And we took upon us as assigned by council to open it up to more agencies. Mm-hmm. So I think we had approximately, how many? 55 this year. And we had a workshop We had an opening session that talked about the new application that we had. Then after that, we opened it up for anyone that needed any assistance, because a lot of the smaller agencies who have never done this before, I think council saw the need for assistance with the application process, so we had a workshop for that. And then after that, we actually had an opportunity for the groups to call, the agencies to call or come by if they needed any feedback or any help, assistance in that manner. So.
Well, I'll say this, this is always an area that we probably spend more time on than any other area. I look forward to their presentation and also look forward to the committee giving the council any recommendations or city manager that you may have on how to improve the process. The first year out, we do the best we can, but you always learn something from it, so that will be a good area to discuss when the time comes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Continue.
All right. Just real quick, we have the occupancy tax funded agencies, again, same amount, 131, and also we have housing finance assistance proposed same as last year again. And we have our last one, grants, and these are our SOAR programs right here. The agencies that are funded here, the 25,000, there is still an additional 150 that's budgeted in the public safety budget for its youth outreach, youth programs during the summer. That is budgeted, you just don't see it here.
So these are grants to the community agencies from the general fund.
Exactly.
Whereas the other is more federal money?
Grants, yes.
Grants, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Continue.
Here we have a little more information on the downtown Winston-Salem Business District. This is the budget that they actually proposed that we actually accepted, $571.5 million. That's the tax base that the non-census is based on. We actually have their work plan, which is very similar to last year. They want to continue with stronger marketing. They want the clean team of ambassadors. I think many of you probably seen those folks out there. I think they're doing a pretty good job, fantastic job actually. They want enhanced physical appearance, and they had some more administrative costs. And again, the recommended tax rate of 9 cents, and the budget this year, $504,370. That's the actual bid district budget they would spend. And that shows you they're on the same fiscal year as we are.
Are they happy with the area? We got the right area?
It is my field that they are.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Are we hearing any more comments about anything? Guess Mr. McIntosh. Everything's moving smoothly.
Seems to be.
I did get an email. I think everyone in here got an email from some person who is concerned about, I guess it's panhandling down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know the mayor has responded back to it. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Burke?
There's still, since you brought up panhandling, you do have, I think, even though we know as I've spoken, that city of Winston-Salem, the downtown area should be used for everybody. But I do think some people are becoming a little too familiar, making certain benches home. And as I said years ago, if we're going to increase tourism and people using downtown, then we're going to have to make sure in a friendly way to let them know that this is not the place to rest and start playing cards. I looked like someone's playing little cards down there, little checkers or something.
Okay.
Next slide is our projected debt service fund balance, fiscal year 2016. And as you can see here, I guess right now, I think the year to watch out is the 2024. It's a year where we see the projected debt fund balance dip down to $2 million. So that's one to be mindful of. Keep projecting this trend out. This is one that we've actually seen before. The next one is a long-range financial outlook for our transit fund. And as you can see this year, the transit fund reserves roughly $2 million. We have projected out to fiscal year 18 a slight drop to $1.96 million. And I think we had our fiscal year 15 is the infusion that we had into the fund at that point in time, which maybe somewhere down the line in the future may be necessary some other point in time.
Okay. Oh, anybody have a question?
Anybody else?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
With the new transit routes we're coming up with, how does that feed into this and the cost of that? I mean, that's something I'm sure, that's some information you can bring back.
Okay.
But that's something I think the council needs to know because we're getting ready to eventually hear the feedback from the community at large as to what they're thinking about this. Okay?
Ms. Burke?
Yes, every time we get to Ramco, I always ask to explain Ramco so that the public can understand, please.
Okay. Might ask Lisa.
Lisa, come on up.
Meeting next week.
Yeah, it's next week.
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Good afternoon. Ramco was created in 1988 for the benefit of the city of Winston-Salem, and it pays claims for auto and general liability insurance for the city. We actually issued $18 million in debt. It's been repaid, and then there's a reserve in the Ramco fund for about $30 million. We've used things like we did buy the Bryce A. Stewart building on behalf of the city and ended up saving the city about $8 million over the life of that transaction. And annually, I think it's about $450,000 we're saving the city this year in rent. So it's been a very good thing for the city of Winston-Salem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Minor, continue.
Here we just have our budget calendar, budget review. Now we look at, we meet again Tuesday, June the 2nd, 4 to 6, Finance Committee. And at that point in time, that workshop, again, we'll have the Allocation Committee and the chair of the Allocation Committee, and we'll also touch on the capital plan as well. Thursday, June the 4th at 7 p.m., Finance Committee have a public hearing. That Monday, June the 8th, another Finance Committee workshop. We'll consider the recommended budget, property tax at that point in time. And also on June the 8th, I want to highlight the public safety meeting in the committee room at 6 p.m. We review the budgets of police, fire, and emergency management. June 9th from 2 to 4 p.m., council committee room. Have Finance Committee workshop, an additional meeting if needed. And finally, on Monday, June 15th at 7 p.m., City Council chambers, we have the regular council meeting and the public hearing to adopt the budget.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Last piece is just supplemental information. You all can peruse that, and
Looks like it's all capital fund.
it is. It's all capital that we will touch on.
We're buying.
Exactly. Vehicles and equipment.
Let me just open up. We started the second half at page 16. Any questions anyone has on this area? Ms. Adams, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to comment on the capital outlay matrix that you've given us. I would like to know, are these replacements or new? Are they replacements or additional?
For
The vehicle.
All the vehicles, again.
I think these.
Because I'm looking like some of them, I can see they're used for specific tasks, but are we replacing FY, the chemical sprayer at Winston Lake? Are we replacing it, or is it new, additional?
We can highlight those.
We'll bring you they've got a matrix. Most of them are replacements, and we can show you the age and the reason. The few new ones are associated with new positions, like the fire captain.
Okay.
We'll bring that back in a chart,
All right.
a diagram, and let you know what those are,
Thank
because it is an intermingling here.
Okay. Anyone else? I've got a few on the, I don't see a page number. It's page 22, the chart on the debt service fund. Ms. Saunders, it's sometime, I would be curious, we're selling bonds in 16, 18, and 20. At what interest rates you've assumed in here? For all of them? Okay. I hope you're right. It's tight there. Page 23, and I know in the supplemental letter we got that this was addressed a little bit. I am just perplexed at the huge gyrations that are forecasted in the transit fund. And I do know we upped, I'm assuming it was in 11, 12 when it went to zero. we upped that a little bit. But it's grown considerably for 3 years, and now it's suddenly going down. And I know there's a chart somewhere, and again, I think it was in the supplemental information, that kind of did a worst case, best case, and it seemed to me a lot of those assumptions were whether or not we were going to get either state or federal funding to pay for vehicles or whatever. But I just want to be sure that our budget is our best guess at what we think is going to happen, because this fund, for many years, we projected it was going to fall off the face of the earth, and it never did. Then suddenly it did.
Yeah.
So it seems to be an area that we seem to struggle in our projections with it. But anyway, just comment there. Any else, Mrs. Burke? You have your hand up?
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Mr. Montgomery.
I have three. One goes to the same place in terms of the mass transit fund, and it comes to the question that was raised earlier by Councilmember Adams in reference to the changes that are looked to take place. If, in fact, those changes are adopted by the end of this year and unrolled sometime at the end of this year, beginning of next year, the intention of that was more efficiency in that. And I don't know if you'll bring that back within those numbers that are being looked at, what was requested, but what does that really have financially? If it's more efficient, what are we projecting potentially in terms of increased revenue or decreased revenue, or what's the implications that will potentially have on the fund at that time? The other two questions go back to page 16 on the city fiber network. Just ask just a little more detail in terms of exactly what all that will entail.
I'm correct in stating this. Anyone could jump in and correct it. But
We can provide the additional details, but the money that's proposed is to really kind of complete the build-out of the city fiber network. We've got an agreement with the state where they are constructing what we call the backbone, laying the main line. This additional funding will then enable us to actually make the connections from the backbone to the various city facilities that will be served by the network.
Right. And one reason I say that is that when we look at that number, and others, just to understand that it's a big number compared to that, but that's fiber is very expensive to do that type of work, and so understanding what that is. And then last one is on the neighborhood revitalization strategy area building rehab loan program. I would just want to see in the past how quickly those funds were expended just over the past, because I know we didn't have any funded last year in that area, but just the last time we had it funded, how quickly those funds.
The actual budget, that page shows the fund balance appropriation of $100,000, but the full budget is $200,000 because we've identified some balances within the economic development area, but we'll show you how fast it's been spent before and what our projection is.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Before you close, I'm just going to make a statement.
Yes, go right ahead.
As I sit and look and listen to us go through this budget, only two people up here can tell you how we got to be able to fine-tune where we got, along with you two, but the mayor and myself. If you go back and look at that struggle we used to have with the budget and how we have been able, through the input from elected officials coming in with ideas, suggestions, and recommendations, and also citizen input, we have come a 100%. And when you say what we're doing, when you heard the report from the citizens' budget, we started that in the 80s, I do believe, and made that recommendation and have encouraged not only that committee, but we've had neighborhood meetings. And I believe I saw in the city manager's update where several of our elected officials are calling these kinds of meetings, and we used to do it overall in the city. So we have made a tremendous progress in trying to meet the needs not only of the citizens, and that's our first priority, but we've also worked hard to try to meet the needs of the employees. And we have been an example for a lot of other cities to see and to pattern us as a model. I just thought I'd
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Adams?
Yes. On the neighborhood groups and organizations that are requesting or have requested funding, could we get a small snapshot, if possible, as to the scoring of the requests by the committee as to their conclusion? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we see that for each one. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Light?
Just to reiterate that, I guess I want to know if all of the input for the community agency grants was from the committee for, if there was a staff recommendation or whatever that gave them some background.
We did, in some instances, give them staff information, just background. But what you see in the proposed budget was their decision. But when necessary, we had to fill them in on some of the past history and what the agency had done and things of that nature. So
Definitely like to see the worksheets on those.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I've also asked Mr. Rowell to bring me something in concerning the same matter.
Okay, all right. And we will be getting to that, I think, on June the 2nd, which is next Tuesday. Just a brief preview of the agenda. We'll review any questions that were raised in this meeting, and community agencies are next item on it, and then capital budget. So those are the three big items next Tuesday. Okay. Any other questions, comments? I have a few I'm going to give you, and then the two people have signed up to speak, and I'll let those speak after that, and then I think we'll be finished. I'm going to try to go through these quickly. Page 29 of the book. And some of these we've discussed, some of them we haven't. It shows the historical trend in sales tax revenue, and it shows a nice or a steady increase from fiscal year 10. I think it'd be helpful to give a few years prior to that, because I think we did have a dip. Maybe go back to 07, 06, 07, because I think it dipped and came back. I think it's important to see how long it took us just to get back to where we were. So that's on page 29. Also on page 29, the state did change or broaden the areas that pay sales tax. And I think movie theaters, you pay sales tax now. That's just one example I can think of. Do we have any feel for, is this growth in sales tax just general economy improvement, or is it specific to those areas? Because it seemed to me the areas that were selected were some very minor areas that I can't imagine would have had that much of influence on it.
I think right now it's difficult to get that information from the state. But our belief is that I think it's both, really. We just don't know the magnitude. So I think we are seeing just general growth in the economy and the results of that, taxable sales increasing. As far as how much of that growth is because the General Assembly has now expanded the base to include automotive services and entertainment. We'll reach out to the Department of Revenue and see if they've got some additional information.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next one on page, so the main thing to follow back on is just some history on the sales tax. Next one's page 70 on the 10-year plan to end homelessness. My question here, and this may be a rhetorical question, is how accurate are these numbers? And maybe we need, and they may well come to the city, and I don't sit on the correct committee, but this was, to me, a very discouraging chart in that our homeless population is larger than it's ever been, yet we've been working for 5 or 6 years to get the number down. Mr. Mayor, would you like to comment on that?
And the 10-year plan is to end chronic homeless. Yeah. This is the total homeless, the number, and Councilor deals with it every day.
Yeah.
But about 200 chronic homelessness when we started. That's down to about 90 now. So we've cut it by about 50% in terms of chronic homelessness.
So they don't count as homeless anymore?
We count them in, but the 10-year plan was to deal with that specific group. The issue happened is we're doing a better job of counting now. And these are actual counts.
Oh, I know.
Done
in January.
Twice per year.
Yeah.
Twice per year.
Twice per year.
And the economy hit it pretty hard, even though it's going back there. But the 10-year plan has been very successful. It's just overall, we're seeing some additional government.
In the last numbers I presented from agencies, there were increases in every category across the board. And so there's work to be done there. And I see Major Allison here as well, and he can attest to the same thing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it does seem nice and it sounds good when you say the 10-year plan, we're doing a good job, and nobody's going to contradict you on that. But I have said on occasions, it may look good, and people are working hard. In fact, I give credit. In fact, on one day last week, I believe that was called the Commons there, where they open up new facilities, and we commend and appreciate everyone who's doing something. But the reason some of this that we say about the 10-year plan with the for the homeless, people don't believe it, because when they go up and down Patterson Avenue, and of course you say the council person, he's with 1,000, he sees it every day, they don't see that we're doing a good job with homelessness. They're gathered right there on a daily basis, breakfast, lunch, supper, nighttime. And I've sent the city manager up there on so many, many occasions just to see for ourselves. So if people are coming to this city and they go down Patterson Avenue, your story is a good story, but the story they see is a story that's left in their heads. So many people there walking who are homeless and just lost, it looks like. All what we're trying to do with the improvements of this city, bringing in new business, tourism. Once some of the folks go down Patterson Avenue, they would say, what is this city doing? And I sent the city manager out last week. I say some of our areas are just like a desert. Some of it, we still see pockets of crime. And go back down on Patterson Avenue, and I'm there every day. I see the story. So the good story may be of what you're doing for the 10 years, but the big story is when people see it looks like we're not doing anything. So I guess I propose the question. You have these agencies, and we support these agencies, and I've said it through the years with our tax dollars. And you can't answer me now, Mr. City Manager. But the question would be, how, with the agencies that we do support, with the efforts that are being put and given by citizens, some on a volunteer basis, and a lot of folks donating their money in order to improve homelessness, what can we as a city do to change the impression that people have about the homeless on Patterson Avenue? They have sent them from certain places in the city, and they're just congregated. And I believe the chairman has asked us on more than one time about Northwest Boulevard and Patterson, the little club there, that people are there on a regular basis. And now they're setting up chairs right next a vacant lot. Then you have another little lot I keep telling you need to improve. And then you have your public safety center, a training center, where our people who work go in there every day and can let it look like it look instead of trying to call in. I'm talking about the Public Safety Training Center, Mr. Alexander Beatty's building there. How can they go to those jobs on a regular basis and not report some things? And then when we look at the chairs that are sitting there, I don't know what they're getting ready to have now. I don't know what they have in church. What are they getting ready to have?
At the corner there of Northwest Boulevard and Patterson.
Yeah.
Across the street from your little project that you continue to talk about, that former service station. You asked about that. Well, they're out there. We've got a report on that. No, not there.
Across the street.
Across the street.
Same side as the Beatty Center there, right?
Right on that.
Right in the corner of that empty parking lot.
Okay.
And you know what I said, Mr. Chairman? Until, and I remember Councilman Mahop saying this, we can put everything on the book, but if we don't enforce it, we just have one thing after another, and we need to be enforcing some of the things we have on the book. And I would like to have a report on, and they're getting permits for these things, I'm sure they must be.
And I go by there every day, too.
I know you do.
Business over that way.
I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Mayor had a
I just
comment.
wanted to follow up with that. You got to remember, too, that the whole issue of homelessness is a dynamic number. We started 7 years ago. There were about 200 chronic homeless individuals. The plan has created about 500 housing units. So during that period of time, we placed almost 400 individuals in the housing. We've got about 90 left to do. So it wasn't just the 200 that was dealt with initially. It was dealt with those, and then the economy went sour, and so we got more people coming into it. And so as Councilman Montgomery knows, it's a continuing coming in and out of the system. So we've done a great job, I think, of creating these housing units. And I see Gary Merritt back there, and he was, Councilmember Burke and I were out with the ribbon cutting for the Commons project over there, which will really complete the number goal for the 10-year plan, which is about 600 units. So we'll actually complete that goal, and so I think we'll be able to hopefully declare victory relative to chronic homelessness. But I agree with Councilmember Burke that there's still lots of individuals that we got to continue to provide good services for.
Briefly define the commons for some people may not know.
Yeah, it's a complex up on old Walkertown Road.
No, let's don't go to
Winston
Walkertown.
Road.
Old Greensboro Road and Reedsville.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a complex that we actually did a fundraising to purchase the complex, and it'll be converted into housing, particularly for homeless families. That's one of the biggest issues right now, as well as individuals that will have some medical issues as well.
Mayor, one thing he didn't, I mean, not Mayor, but Chairman, he didn't say which was the most, that's right, you're in charge. One of the most important things that I got from that, people who have disabilities will be trained and go out to make a difference. And one of the problems some of the agencies have not liked about me, which it does not really matter, and I'll say it again, is that you have these agencies, they go to their jobs each and every day, and they turn the people out without a skill. Well, this will be an example. I don't know if it's one of the first ones, but then we will be able to monitor this to see if these people who are going to work every day, working with people with disabilities and needs, how productive the clients that they serve will be. And that's something that we should keep a look at. Thank you.
Mr. Montgomery had a comment.
Yes, it's just in terms of just some comments around the conversation and dealing with some of the homeless individuals and those agencies that provide services. One thing I think we must be careful of, I agree 100% in terms of we got to do everything within our power to make sure that things are done properly and right. But we must avoid hiding the problem in the sense of trying to make it look better than what it is, meaning that out of sight, out of mind. So if we move somebody from one bench to another bench, or you move someone around a corner to another one so that you have your solace, we don't solve the issue. And I think that's one of the issues that we have, that we deal with the issue in the sense of we move it out of my face to somebody else's face, but you never deal with the issue. And just with some things as a community, not just on the issue of homelessness, but I challenge us as we invest in community and community needs, that we have set goals as a community that we all strive to reach in those goals, and we tie ourselves to those pieces so that as a community we're able to reach those regardless of where the problem is. And that's just one thing I think we have to be cautious of, because I don't like this on my doorstep, so we clean it up. But that has not dealt with the issue that exists in our community, as well as supporting those who provide those services.
Ms.
Just to add to that, because I sit on the Homelessness Council, and I'm very impressed with the way the 10-year plan has evolved and has housed many, many people, but more keep coming out of the woodwork. But and those agencies have done a really good job, I think, in bringing services to the housed clients to give them that support that they need. And so I really am very impressed with those agencies that are a part of that program.
I don't want to dwell too long on this, and maybe part of it would be, and I do know that I do not sit on the committee that the homeless committee reports to, but it just strikes me if someone's got permanent housing, they're not homeless. So they shouldn't be in the number.
Well, they're not.
If I just add one
I just
thing.
asked, you said that the chronic homeless were in that number
Well,
No, I said the chronic homeless that have been dealt with.
that have not been dealt with.
Yeah, that's right. They have not been dealt with.
Okay, but if they've been permanent housing, then
Yeah,
they're no
not.
longer in the number.
No.
Okay.
And if I may just say, with the number, you have to understand that just because you solve the issue with the 200 that are chronically homeless, the fact that the economy and life situations happen, new people come into the
Yeah,
system that are
totally.
homeless. And so
Understand.
that impacts that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is what we found in this city. When we've been looking at the homeless, we've been looking at problems all through the years. At one of the meetings, it was Chief Sweat. We talked about homeless and about people coming. And we say, he made the statement, we treat people so good, homeless people, until they find Winston-Salem. And you do have some people who come here and they are capable to work, But because we do some things, it becomes a habit of where they gather. And when the council person said, not in my front door, somebody else says, well, I tell you, you all keep putting them in my front door. And I want us to find some kind of way to move them out of our front door, because part of it is yours and part of it is yours to understand what you're saying. You heard us, Mr. City Manager.
Okay.
One
more, that's it. I'm going to hit the gavel.
You allowed everybody else. I want to say my 2 cents, too. So far as what we're seeing, for those of you who don't know, Congresswoman Alma Adams was in the district today at the food bank, again, talking about the disparities of hunger in our communities, particularly the 12th district, and a large part of Forsyth County and the city of Winston-Salem lies in that. The conversation, again, was over and over what we talk about, in that we not only got hunger, but you got poverty, you got unemployment, you got people that are disenfranchised, no economic opportunities. It's just a whole bunch of everything that's linked together, whether it's homelessness, whether it's, all of that. But the issue is, and I told her and all of the people that were there again, and Councilmember Clark, you were there, that if we're just concentrating on one thing, we will never solve or even touch all the issues that it brings. If we are doing such a good part being Samaritans and helping the homeless and hungry, but we're not tying it all together and asking for accountability as to what is it that we're doing to help the person become self-sufficient, a sustainable life. You can give a person a bed, but if you keep giving me a bed, I'm going to lay down every day. Why not? If you feed me, that's fine. I'm hungry, but we've got to get to a point, and she did say this, and it's coming. We got to have more public-private partnerships that hold each of us accountable for the monies that we spend and invest in people and programs, that actually there is something that comes out of it that's successful. If you're getting money and less than 10 or 20% of the people you're seeing every day are still in the same situation, then maybe some of us, as Councilmember Burke said, we need to sit down and talk about how we need to help you make your program better, or we work together to make it better. Okay?
Next area, I'm on page 79 in the trash collection, yard waste. I just want to be sure I'm reading this chart right. Are we saying that, and I'm on halfway down that chart on page 79, that we recycle 25%, the recycling was 25% of what goes into the landfill? That struck me as exceptionally well. Am I reading that 25% right? Collect recycled materials equal to at least, it says 20%, but look at for this year, it says 25%.
At least 20%, yeah.
So I'm reading that,
yes.
I would think that's very good. Mr. Turner, I see you nodding your head. I remember years ago it was 6-7%, something like that.
Everybody likes to recycle.
As you recall, Mr. Chairman, when we went to the bulk, or the 96-gallon containers, we projected a significant improvement in participation. We also, as you recall, reduced some of the restrictions that we had. We increased the plastics. We started accepting aerosol containers. We started accepting cardboard in a more convenient way, and I think we even started accepting pizza boxes. So aluminum foil. A lot of additional improvements were made in order to make the program more successful.
Would you have any idea what that number is nationally? That just struck me as a very, very good number.
I don't, but we'll get it for you.
I think I was chairman of Public Works when we did that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, the two numbers below that, as far as the brush collection, the leaf collection, I just want to make a comment on brush collection. I think brush collection is getting ready to overtake leaf collection as far as the phone calls I get. I thought we were on a 2-week cycle, but it's nowhere near that. So I do think we need to, and I know during leaf season we get a little behind because we got more trucks picking up leaves, but then we have bulky item from May through August and we get a little bit behind then. So it seems like me we're always behind in brush collection. If that's an area we need another truck and another boom. I know we got 6 new booms 2 years ago, 3 new booms or whatever. So anyway, I would just challenge us to get up from that 50% on the brush collection. Ms. Adams.
And Mr. Chair, I think we need to look at brush collection, the same process that we did for recycling and the process for leaf collections. as to how we implement it, no different than the transit routes we're looking at. We need to look at how efficient, as you said, and we've said this before. I think that we need to put us on a plan, the citizens, all of us, because we call up sanitation and Mr. Turner and his crew. Anytime I cut my tree down this week, I got one more to cut down day after tomorrow, and I'm going to call you and you'll come back out. I think we need to get or look at some kind of program to become more efficient and productive with this.
I think one thing that also may be helpful is if we can plot the collection per month. I think there's a seasonality to it, and so maybe we, the big stuff you can haul the street, we call it a bulky item, that doesn't have to be seasonal. That's whenever we do it. So maybe we concentrate, right now haven't we already started bulky item pickup?
Yes.
We're doing that at the same time, and I think spring and early summer is when a lot of your brush is out there, although it's other times of the year as well. Maybe we need to do a better job of scheduling that type of stuff. But anyway, page 80, the next page over from that, I was surprised, and this gets back to benchmarking. And this, I tell you, Greensboro, I don't know why their taxes aren't half ours, even though they're higher. They have no sewer backups, and their refuge, the residential refuge, which is your house waste, is almost half ours. I was surprised ours was still much higher. I know at one point it was much higher when we did backyard pickup, but now that we're rolling out the carts, I guess was a little perplexed at that number. Make a comment on that. Moving forward to page 89, on the landfill, I'm going to speak heresy as a Republican. I'm wondering if we don't charge enough for the landfill. We're so much cheaper than everyone else, it looks like. And I'm surprised Greensboro doesn't bring all their trash over here. We're $8, $7.50 a ton cheaper.
Maybe we need to advertise.
Well, I don't know if I want them to bring it, but food for thought there. And, next page, the landfill cost, page 90. Operating expenses went down $800,000, which is over 10%. I was a nice decrease, but was just curious. I know there were a few comments in here, but it might be interesting to know if that's kind of a one-time event. And are we going to be able to maintain it? And I think I got one more question for today. Page 122, I'll finish with this one on the buses, because we talked about that earlier. This chart of the ridership, I know we have added a route, and we've added, is it Sunday service?
Yes.
It would be interesting to put a little asterisk on when those were done. I'm curious, is this just a growth in usage, or is this because we have more routes and Sunday's a route too?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you ask, would it be okay if Mr. Turner give us the time that we're going to have our public hearing about the transit?
Good comment. Can you comment on how we're, the next public hearing on the bus routes?
I'll have to get the committee a list because there are a number of them, and I honestly haven't memorized them.
And
okay.
Mr. Chairman, also the telephone number that we have here that I asked that citizens can call in. Do we have that number available? Is the number, if I have a complaint about what I'm hearing from the transit authority, that I can call in and say, da-da?
They would call City Link.
Yeah, 311.
What is the number?
311.
Oh, they just called 311.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
It'll get us there. Okay, thank you. Ms. Light?
I'm just interested in how...
What page are you on, so everybody will know?
Pardon?
What page are you on?
Oh, I'm still on 122.
122, okay.
How have the public meetings gone? I worry that the people who need to be at those public meetings maybe don't have the right connections to know about them even. They don't have a computer necessarily, or they don't have watch Channel 13 or whatever. And I'm just wondering how we are getting the word out to the actual people who ride the bus.
Greg, can you comment on how well the meetings have been attended? And
some have been better attended than others, and we do get feedback from the public. The kind of feedback you would expect whenever you're making a change are from those who are affected by the change. So we are definitely hearing from people who are saying this route change will negatively affect me, and they're telling us how. So we are getting feedback. And citizens don't have to have a computer in order to let us know. They can call, they can attend the meeting, of course, and leave their comments there. And we are having staff who are writing down comments that they get verbally over the phone. All of that will go into a final written report and final public comment record.
Do we actually put out information on buses for people to come to a meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Montgomery had his.
Just a comment that I know that to that same extent that there, in the population I work with and others in that arena, that they've been commenting. I know there have been presentations that have come to be made before providers and others, just so that they can give that input for those agencies that serve individuals that depend on buses. That's going to be dramatically effective and so dramatically affected. But most of that I was not positive in feedback so far. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? We do have two gentlemen that signed up to speak. I'm going to call on them in a second.
I just
go
wanted
Ms.
to
Adams.
say again about the transit process. I've gotten lots of phone calls, lots of messages and emails. So if they're not calling 311, a lot of people know that they need to call their council member, and I've been referring that to Mr. Turner and Mr. Garrity and Ms. Key Lucas, those communications I've been getting.
Okay. Thank y'all very much. Before we adjourn, we have two folks that have signed up to speak. Mr. Jones, you'll come forward. We'll give you first choice. And if you'll give your name and address for the record.
Hobart Jones, 4645 Palace Avenue, Winston-Salem, 27101. More than likely, Tuesday probably when I'll be doing serious speaking, but tonight I'm just saying we have introduced ourselves to try to include the whole budget process so we can inform the people that we deal with in our churches and our community. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity tonight just to watch this process and prepare myself for Tuesday. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn the whole process of the budget, because tonight some of the stuff affected me, and Tuesday it also affected things that me and my organization are doing. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to get the whole picture, and so I can take it back to my people.
Yes,
Thank you.
Tuesday will be let me just be sure everybody's got the time. Bear with me. It's at 4 o'clock, this same room on Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Chavez? Miss, excuse me, I'm sorry. I can't read the first name. If you give your name and address for the record.
Kia Shabazz, 3727 Barnwell Drive.
Thank you.
Actually, you might as well say I live at 897 Peters Creek. I'm the executive director of Harry Veterans Community Outreach. And as Mr. Jones alluded to, maybe this is not the right form. But I wanted to take the opportunity on next Tuesday. I do have another commitment that I have to do some advocacy with some veterans that I'm serving. So I'm going to be in a quagmire as to if I can be in both places at the same time. So if I can just make an appeal, brief appeal, when you were talking about the homelessness, I wanted to piggyback off of that and the issues that are impacting them. And if we do not deal with the health, social, and economic well-being of our homeless, whether it be the veteran or the general population, we cannot cure that problem. Those are some of the things that my organization actually addresses with the veterans. We not only deal with them working with compensation, getting their claims, we try to stabilize those veterans, do ongoing follow-up. We have matched the funds. We work off of a budget of, last year, $48,000. With $48,000, we were able to service, during the course of the year, 222 veterans. We were able to bring in, through those veterans, $442,000 to help financially stabilize those veterans. We took in 48 additional new veterans. Agencies at this point that have budgets much larger than ours are beginning to refer those veterans to us. The Department of Veterans Affairs, in an email that I received on yesterday, are asking our agency to be a supplemental agency because of the work that we've done over the course of the last years. They look at us with they're going to have a summer service program. This has come down from D.C., where they want nonprofits. They have named in Winston-Salem Harry Veterans Community Outreach Services as one of the major organizations in terms of nonprofit, to work with them as a nonprofit organization providing services. So with that being said, off of that $48,000, no one gets a salary. All of our money goes back to the community that we serve, and we just did that on Monday. Not only do we service the veterans, every year we make certain that we show that we are good stewards of the taxpayer dollars that are given to us to provide services to the veterans, and with that we bring veterans, families, and communities together free of charge. We eat, we do all of those things. So to give us right now, you've cut us almost 30%. I have been fortunate enough through the Urban League to get an employee, an office assistant. We need to have some money to retain that individual. We have no staffing. I have no staffing. I have no big budget. I primarily focus on function and not form, and I know we may lax in form, and that's because we are committed to the service that we provide, and every dollar that you give to us, we try to match it and help ourselves to be self-sustainable. So I want to make an appeal, if you do nothing else, but to bring us back where we were at the 14,000, we would greatly appreciate it, because if I don't get that money, I will not be able to have this office assistant that I have, which I need. My health is on the line at this particular point, and if I don't have someone to answer those phones and to help me daily, Harry, I just can't do it. And I am going to put forth every effort, as I have been doing, continuing to make the financial sacrifices that I make. I don't get a salary, but I love what I do. I love Winston-Salem, and I want to show Winston-Salem that I can be a viable entity. And what I do improves, make Winston-Salem look like a city that is welcome to the men and women who serve this country. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll also mention, while we do have a meeting next Tuesday, next Thursday, a week from today at 7 o'clock p.m., we will have a public...
The veterans are going to be here. I just wanted to...
That's a week from today at 7 o'clock in the big room.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Montgomery.
And I know we don't want to belabor this because we'll have a full conversation on it, but that's why I think it's important for the information that's going to be presented, Mr. Minor and others, in and around the agencies, because again, you have an agency like this one, which I think many council members came out on Monday to the event that was held, and then the consistent work that's being done. How do we continue to make sure that we're supporting agencies like that in the process, dealing with a limited amount of dollars? How do we make sure we continue to support good work in that process?
Amen.
Thank you very much. Folks, that's all I have for tonight. We will meet again Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the same room. Anything else to bring forward the committee? If not, adjourn.